Thank you very much. We only have 94 slides, so we can make it. Okay, yeah, current state of Icinga, we don't have so much time, so let's directly go into. Just a short introduction, my name is Bernd. You can find me on Twitter, still there, don't pay €8 or $8. Today I figured out that I have a Mastodon account, which I created 5 years ago, and I have 1 follower, which I got an email notification today, but yeah, anyway. Yeah, thanks, yeah. I put a lot of effort into it, So, Icinga, who has no idea, is there anyone who has no idea what Icinga is? Which is a totally fair question, could happen. So, yeah, okay. Our own people, of course, have no idea what Icinga is. Said because it's true. Anyway, okay, I think you know what Icinga is. So our approach mainly is that we make a monitoring tool or make solutions in our Icinga ecosystem, but for the enterprise, for mainly, which is our users, but our customers are large enterprises. Of course, we have people monitoring their home environment or their small company, but our typical customer, they have hundreds of thousands of services. For them, like security is important, high availability, mainly like having a larger server setup, having a lot of different data sources to combine the monitoring data. So this is our typical enterprise. And then in the preparation for the talk, I was thinking about, okay, how can you visualize what is a typical enterprise? What does it mean? So what does enterprise mean? And what I usually do is like using Google picture search, and I figured out that they have a lot of interfaces in common. So here you see a picture of promoting Tesla monitoring, which is not a Tesla monitoring, but this is what the website is all about. And I figured out, okay, this is like some monitoring, because enterprise monitoring, you get this hit on Google, and say, okay, this is like a Tesla. It could be enterprise monitoring. And then figured out, there's another dude sitting in front of these computers, and he's doing Splunk. So this is the same setting, same computers, same visualization, but another dude. And then he's obviously figuring something out, something is not okay, and looking to the left and say, okay, I've got an error. You can still, if you go to the picture, he has the full desk, and that buddy has no clue what's going on. And then there is another person coming in place. He's doing reducing downtime in real-time event, with this promotion of this blog post is all about, and figuring out and helping together. He's already postponed. And now in the next picture, and they're talking about NTOP, CheckMK, and SolarONCE, they explain another thing. And then this lady took over and figuring out what they can find as an error in that interface. And at the end, they decided, okay, we give her Spectrum as a monitoring interface. So it's super interesting what we have, and they all are afraid that the manager on top is looking on them and figuring out that they have no clue what they are doing. And the URLs are real, of course. So then I was curious, okay, what do we want? What is our approach of enterprise monitoring? And then I think, okay, the approach is pretty simple. We'd like to make people happy using Icinga. And then I was thinking about how can we do it? We found a super simple solution. So I have these Post-its here, where I can make you a Post-it for the evening event with a be happy, and it will be super straightforward, having a happy customer. Now, honestly, jumping back, what are we doing? What is our approach? We have some customers, and I would like to bring up one. This is some of our users we're having here. Okay, this is like the last marketing slide. No, not the last, but one of the last. And we did a couple of customer stories in the past, which are all on the website, about how telecom is using, different telecom branches are using Icinga, how ING is using Icinga. But a very interesting customer is Magalu. And so my question is, any one of you heard ever of them? Anyone heard ever Magalu? Where are you from? That's the reason why you know them. So Magalu is a Brazilian e-commerce giant. So it's a crazy huge company. They have like an e-commerce, they have conventional stores around. So it's really a big deal. It's like the company that digitalizes Brazil, and they use Icinga monitoring everywhere. So for them, it was important to have a highly integrated software where they can add all the other tools they have and combine it together. So not the approach we would like to squeeze everything into Icinga, but with different tools we would like to have like an umbrella monitoring. And what they did is they cleaned out the whole environment, started all over with the migration, created the new data sources, and ending up having a setup with about 43,000 services on 11,000 hosts. And for me, the most interesting thing, first of all, there are so many companies out there, crazy large, we never know, because we typically know Amazon is an e-commerce, or if you are from Japanese, you know Rakuten, or anyway, but this is a crazy huge company using our stuff. And it's always fantastic for us to know when people are using Icinga, which ends up to say, if you use Icinga, let us know. We would love to hear about it. We would love to hear about your approach, your integration, that some of the integrations say use, so you can also see that they use open source tools, non-open source tools, different tools like for alerting. Victor Ops, I don't know if you're not familiar with this, something similar to PagerDuty. So they have different integrations on top of that, and that's really super cool. So if you would like to dig deeper, go on icinga.com, customers, and see what other people do with Icinga, which is pretty cool. Community is important. We do meetups not so much, means Corona hit all the event ideas pretty much, honestly. We also planned, if you remember, some Icinga Conf, which did not happen because of Corona, or COVID-19. Maybe somebody comes up and say Corona is not the right word, it's like COVID-19. So we try to engage with our community all the time. We have community calls. We did this year again Icinga Camp in Berlin, which worked out pretty well. So it's important for us. We are very active in the forum. Foy is doing a great job here and try to catch up what people have and issues and try to bring people closer to our community. And to mention a couple of highlights and things other people do, which are available as open source, I would like to show you. So first of all, ever heard of you for Netbox? Anyone knows that tool? Some? Who's using is somebody using Netbox with Icinga? Have you heard of this tool? Okay. So1 is our Icinga partner in Australia, and they are heavily a Netbox user, and they created an Icinga web module where they can create all the data of Netbox out, which is like an IP management, data center infrastructure management, like CMDB kind of tool, where they can import all the data out of Netbox into Icinga. They directly go to the Netbox API and query all the data out, and then use property modifiers to bring all their stuff in place. Like here's just a simple example where they get in an array, get their IPs, cut them off. So at this point, they're just figuring out getting the JSON element out of this, and on the other hand, like just cutting off the subnet. And they have a lot of property. It's all built in. You can just download the module. So if you're using Netbox and if you would like to see Netbox working together with Icinga, you can find it on GitHub, and it's really a pretty cool module to get your data in. Another thing they built is Meerkat, which is like, I don't know what thing, Meerkatze? Sign of a cat, something. Anyone heard of this? Okay, visiting Icinga camp perhaps, or not. It's a visualization tool. So Meerkat is a tool for creating visual dashboards for Icinga, in some way familiar to NETWAYS, if you know this. So there's an editor where you can place your background and can place your monitoring objects in front of, and then with a real-time API query the Icinga API all the time, and then create with just a pretty simple map, of course, and this one like a map, but what they do a lot of broadcasting. This is for the dogs .com.au, so dog, I don't know if this is the right word, like dog racing is very popular in Australia, and they do the whole monitoring of the streaming environment, bringing these dog racing to the streaming provider or the television. And they visualize it all with Meerkat. It's also an open source tool where you can build your dashboards, bring your Icinga elements on top, and get it. Also, they have no domain here is Meerkat. I don't know, is Meerkat, is it the right pronunciation? Thank you. There's a Meerkat expert in the back. So yeah, have a look. Another cool tool is like the Linux Fabric monitoring plugins. Who knows them, or who knows this collection? So if you are using an Icinga, Nagios, Nemon, whatever plugin used tool, you should definitely have a look on this. So Linux Fabric, a company based in Switzerland, they did a fantastic job developing, I think, over 160 plugins in the last years or so, which are available under which are very good license, I don't know, unlicensed something. The plugins are all available for Python 3. Also, some of them work with Python 2.7. They have support for Linux and Windows. They provide baskets when you can import the whole plugin configuration into Icinga director. They have Grafana dashboards included. And every plugin has also like a CLI tool where you can use it standalone, and which is really outstanding that a lot of their plugins not only giving you the information that something is critical or something like, or warning, they also give you an advice what to do to overcome this critical. So they use, for instance, for the whole MySQL check plugin, which is about, I think, 15 to 20 different MySQL plugins. They use MySQL tuner in the background and run MySQL tuner against your database, and they say, okay, you have a problem, you can increase like buffer hit ratio or what all these 1,000 parameters in MySQL are. And this is pretty cool because it really helps you. So just as an example, so you can look on the website later on. If you do a Redis check, they give you a little bit of an idea what is in there. You have it in the Icinga detail view. You can see everything from MySQL for connections. They tell you about that you're running against connection limits, and that works for all the different plugins. The plugins are in fantastic shape, which the official monitoring plugins, yeah, well, that we have a buff session, I think, after this. So the plugins also look beautiful. They have an icon for every plugin. I would say let's go through it. No. So one thing is that I just multiplied the 3 columns 3 times. So it's honestly just this, but I didn't know to get the right aspect ratio. And they have plugins for really, really different things. Detailed plugins, very powerful also in the, from the parameters you can give them. So if you use Icinga and you never heard of them or heard of their plugin collection, definitely should use it. Unlicensed is the license they use. Also a new thing for me. I haven't heard about this before, which pretty means do whatever you want. And it's available on GitHub. And yeah, they did a fantastic job. So what they did, and yeah, it's just great. So use these plugins, please. Thank you, Linux Fabric. So let's talk about the Icinga stack a little bit. I would like to go through some of the updates we did for our components in the last year, how we move on, what is on our roadmap a little bit to give you an idea. I think we are still perfect in time, and we can make it work. Talking about the infrastructure part of the Icinga stack. What we did, the last release in Icinga was 2.13.6 coming out in November. What we did, we worked a lot on the, let's say, on the Redis writer feature in Icinga. So you know that for using Icinga DB, which is a feature is available for years, you know, but now it's really available. I talked about many years that it's available soon, but now it's there. We need to write all the data into Redis, and that was not so super fast as we expected, but then we figured out that our write mechanism is so super secure that we wrote all the data 3 times. Still, it was good enough, but now it's better because we decided to just write it once. So there happened a lot here. Also, and this is important for people having large environments. So who is a large environment where reload time is really a thing? So how long does your reload take? I don't know if it's good marketing for me when I ask the question now, but 10 minutes? 7 minutes. Okay. I've heard more worse scenarios. But it could be an issue, right? Like reloading, of course, still monitoring takes place, but it's definitely for people running into hundreds of thousands of services, right? Reloading can take a long time. And this often comes out from having apply rules in place. So people use apply rules to assign different checks, use service checks, whatever, to work with their configuration. And that could end up that reloading the core take a long time. And we worked on this, and already in version 2.36, we were able to reduce it for about 30%, the performance. To be fair, and perhaps someone watched the Ignite from Philip about performance and benchmarking. So in our benchmark, we could reduce it for 90%. Reality is, it's perhaps 30, it's perhaps 40, it's perhaps 20, depending on how you use and what kind of apply rules you use. But it drastically reduces the amount of time Icinga needs to reload. And I talked to Alex, which is sitting in the front, that he's currently working on version 2.14, which we have no idea when it's coming out. That going from this, we're already able to reduce the time for another 60% more. So the goal is to make, even in really crazy large environments, make the reload faster and make it, not that you have to wait for 30 minutes or 7 minutes that Icinga reloads your configuration. And apply rules and going about the config parser is a big thing. I don't know all the internals how we do it. Some people know all the internals how we do it. I tell you how to find them. But that's definitely an important thing for people with crazy large environments. We updated Boost and OpenSSL, but that's more like for the Windows part. Icinga Web 2.11.2 also in November. PHP 8.1 was a thing. Already came with version 2.11. We redesigned the user menu a little bit. Who's using the dark theme of Icinga? Okay, the hipsters. Who is using the light theme? Okay, what are the others using? You have a combination of the light and the dark theme? Okay, it's a discussion you can make endlessly. Perhaps we can make it tonight, what you prefer more. So we have both options available. I personally like the dark theme very much. Hipster, yeah. It's the only hipster in me which is left over after 45 years, so fair. And but yeah, around the interface happened a lot. We changed a lot in very different details, which I think makes no sense going over this in a demo. They happen a lot in service detail grids where you can parameterize the columns and everything. Also, this is described in the various blog posts and the documentation. And another thing, making the tool ready also for the migration tool, getting your IDO data into Icinga DB. We put more work in the Icinga PHP library. So we coming out having different code in different corners, of course. Modules have their own creators. And honestly, for years, we're working on having a more generalistic PHP library, which makes it easier for developers to extend Icinga, because again, which I mentioned with our enterprise approach, we expect that users have some tool we never heard of before. They have some process, some ticketing system, which we never heard of before. And we would like to make it easy for them to bring their data into Icinga. And making it easier for developers is an important instrument to do that. I also know that document these libraries is also important. We're working on this. But we have a lot of was done in this segment. So we have I think it does not make sense to go through all the libraries, but we have something like creating HTML elements. We have like the IPL web, which create like whole components, like a search bar. We have something like ORM, which is like the object relational mapper for the database, and SQL for making the connections, and scheduler to create processes. All this is available, and you can use it if you would like to create your own Icinga modules. And we would just to encourage you to do so. Also come back to us if you would like to create your own Icinga module for your CMDB we never have heard of, which is there's a high chance that we have never heard of your CMDB, except it's Microsoft Excel. We have heard of this. So come back with your feedback that we can learn how we can make it better, because that's super important for the survival of that platform, that integration works, and integration is easy. Also, Christian showed a little bit about how easily you can create application and integrate them using Icinga parameters, bind them to filters. So this is a part where Icinga really has a lot of power. And to make it easier for you to use, we put more effort into this. Icinga for Windows. Someone has not been to Christian's talk in the morning. Okay. This is a high chance of a duplicate. It's super cool. Their Grafana dashboards, they look fantastic, and Christian did an awesome job. Thank you, Christian. Because it doesn't make sense for you to explain it again. So if you've all been there, hopefully I understood it right. Yeah, you all have seen it. So I think Christian is putting a lot of effort into Windows. He was a Windows lover at the time where people hated Windows. Now we have still Windows haters, but more and more lovers coming up. So it's his baby, and he did an awesome job of designing it, doing documentation, helping people. It's pretty much a team consisting out of Christian. And I would really love to give you him applause because he spends endless hours into that project. So thank you, Christian. You already knew for years that it turns out at some time that Windows is a cool thing. Talking about automation, one thing is getting different data into Icinga. I already mentioned that twice or 3 times. And our tool for that is Icinga Director. With Icinga Director 1.10 was released a couple of weeks ago. We had some fundamental changes in Icinga Director last year already with version 1.9. Making the tool ready for director branches, which is another thing I'm not mentioning today, but which is an important part for us was making the director ready for the, let's say, for more, how can I say it? Make it possible to work with different states of monitoring information and make different monitoring information states available, and that went into it, and that is super cool, and I'll also show you this in a demo. There's an improved REST API, which you can, for instance, if you work with service templates and would like to add updates, we have different parameters. You can allow overrides in the API. If you would like to fill new documents, you can directly use in the REST API and say, I would like to override the template. So that's pretty cool. But another great feature is the Sync Preview thing. And now, is anyone used it? Sync Preview? Is it a thing? Okay, there's a high chance that I show you something new, which I like to do in this demo. So let's see. Okay, can you read it? Should I switch to the light theme? Really? No. Is it good enough? Okay, the last inner hipster in me. So going to Icinga Director, we have that automation, and just there's an example plugin prepared for the demo, is that we would just like to insert some data into Director. In this example, it's pretty simple, but the use case is independent from where you get your query, which property modifiers you use, which elements you use. It's just to give you an idea what you can do with that features of the Sync Preview, which was required to do a fundamental change how Director works under the hood. So what we do, it's just a simple import source. So I have to check that it don't fall off here. We just do a query in the database where we use some host name, host type, so different columns we do in a SQL query. We can also do a preview, so which is not a new director feature, where you can see there's some external data I gather with a SQL statement, and there are some dummy hosts in it, right? Like, yeah, you see hosts, you see some environmental environmental variables, you see some super secure SNMP passwords, everything in the source, but could be whatever data source you can imagine connecting to Icinga Director. If you look about this, we have these modifiers, we have a host name replace, and say the only thing we'd like to do is replace vmicinga.com with dummy OSMC, because this is the host I need in the demo. And you can see that we put all these data out and get it into Icinga. And they already in there. In the dummy host, you see different dummy hosts like, okay, Discourse is our, by the way, it's also our production monitoring system. So this Discourse virtual machine, if I kill it, is not so good. Also the MySQL. So there are real hosts and some dummy hosts. So I look up for OSMC, and I forgot one thing. If I go to preview, I check for changes, and there's nothing to be changed because Icinga Director and the external data sources are in sync, though there's nothing to be done. You can also see the history I did and all that stuff, but this is like typical director stuff. And then I change a host. I go to an OSMC host, answer dummy. Oh, that sounds brilliant. I go to modify. I would say, okay, this is a dummy host coming out from an external data source, and I would like to change a custom property. I open this up here, and I say, okay, this server is, or virtual machine is no longer located in Berlin. It's located in where I live, Winsbach, or how we call it, Pampa. So we store it, and then it's a typical thing. You just modify a host. This is like existing feature set, right? You immediately see director, something happened. So we changed an object, so I can deploy it, of course, because director knows do it. I deploy the pending changes, and then it reloads the monitoring information to my core. And then, of course, I cannot remember, what was it, answer? Has it in there. And you see, answer is now in Winsbach, which is, there is nothing except a Knabenchor. Yes, okay. But then you have external data sources and we'd like to see, okay, what changed? So what is different between the things I have outside as an external data source and what is in my monitoring system? And what's pretty cool, and that's a part of this, is you go to automation, go to that, check for changes, nothing happened. Why? Have I done something wrong? Yeah, I did the wrong. And they're saying, okay, there are pending changes, I did this. And then I can go on preview. And then in the sync preview, I can see what would change if I sync an external data source with Icinga director, which happens that technically Icinga director is creating a branch of your whole monitoring configuration, importing all the data sources in the background and comparing your existing monitoring configuration with the newly generated configuration in another configuration branch and shows you exactly what happened and what needs to be done. I agree that the example is not super high sophisticated, but I hope you get the idea out of it. So if you have different external data sources, before you do the import run, you can see what needs to be changed, what is the impact of an external data source change to my monitoring environment, and makes it super easy to tackle any problems coming out of the sync before you really do it. So you can do it in the background, create a branch, and see how that works. And of course, I can do then the sync, check for changes, and seeing there is a change, trigger the sync, and then the source gets in place again. To make it faster, I do a reload. I see there's director in place, activity log, deploy the pending changes, look for an answer, go here, and the service in Berlin again. So this is an old feature, but the sync preview, imagine if you really have a lot of external import sources, is really powerful. So please have a look in that direction. If you have more questions about director, find Thomas. There's a pretty high chance that he have his, I don't know, we call it Quetschen, late in the night and is walking through the streets and playing like he did last year. So he's the master of disaster, Icinga director, and he's definitely the best person to talk to about all that branches and preview features because it's also his baby. So yeah, take a chance and grab Thomas. Is he here, by the way? No, already in the Dunga bar, I think. And I would love to be that. This is just an idea. Okay, let's talk about cloud stuff. I just would like to mention 2 slides bringing up the vSphere stuff. So who has not been to Thomas vSphere's talk today? Okay, a little bit more. Honestly, if I think about it today, we did not a perfect job like arranging the talks because we had the Windows talk and the vSphere talk in front of the Icinga main talk, but that's no problem because it's a very specific thing. So who is using vSphere? Oh, that's a lot. That's more than I expected. Who is not watching the soccer World Championship in Qatar? This is nothing to do with the talk. I was just curious because we discussed it at lunchtime if we should watch or not. It will not make no difference, but I don't know. We will drop out after 3 games, I think. any way to bring the positive energy move forward. Icinga module for vSphere, obviously for vSphere, brought a lot of stuff, UI improvements, something which was important like restrict access to specific vCenters, and also having InfluxDB support for version 2, which allows you directly writing your performance data into InfluxDB. So just did a couple of screenshots to give you an idea what happened here. So you have, what is it in the interface here? You see all the same details in the interface like you have in the CLI. You have these server pictures we are querying out to get you more visualized information about your hardware is going on, which is a new thing is like the host bus adapters. Some of the really young people in our industry don't know what this is because they just use an S3 bucket, right? But at the end, there's something down there. So after an endless row of different ID components which look shitty, the same in your own IT, there is some HBA host bus adapter connecting a disk. So there's real IT behind the cloud API as well. I just had this discussion at DevOps Day, it's brilliant that I talked to a 22-year-old cloud architect who had no clue about a worldwide miner number. And this was really me telling war stories. And him was like, what are you talking about? And I tell you, there's really hardware going on. For those of you where this is a business and they have to deal with hardware, this is interesting, seeing which host bus adapter is connected to a machine, getting the server detail out. And also what I mentioned, restricting vSphere access to specific vCenters. So if you are having your security or your authentication, authorization on that level where you would just like to grant access to specific vCenters, to specific team, you can do it. Also, we have an improved mobile view. So if you're through with TikTok at night, why not look at your hardware servers and figure out what's going on there on your mobile device or during lunch. So it looks fantastic. Yeah, I will do TikTok tonight probably because I don't really have hardware in place. But Thomas did a fantastic job. If you are more curious or you would like to have a repeat of his talk, also Christian's talk will be in the OSMC archive. Sorry. So you find both talks, you find the slides in the archive in about 2 weeks, I would say. You can have a look on this. Talking about IcingaDB. Who is using IcingaDB? Okay, so less users than vSphere. Huh, okay, we have to work on this. Okay, not so many. Who has never heard about IcingaDB? So what is the reason you're not using it? Just asking for a friend. So let me know why. It's not production ready. It wasn't. Yeah, you're right. But now it is. So, okay, just a short explanation what it is. I think most of you are familiar. We replaced our old IDO feature, our old database adapter with IcingaDB, which is more or less, and I really strip it down to the basics, is we write the data into Redis, and all the data which is not volatile, so like a check result coming every minute saying is okay, is not required to be persisted in the database. A state change is because we need it for reporting. And Icinga Web goes to both data sources and connecting us to Redis and to the database, because at the end, again, in large environments, if you have like 500 hosts, I think IDO was never a problem for you. If you have 100,000, IDO was or is, because we write all the data into the database all the time, but 80% of it is obsolete like after 5 minutes because all the new data comes in. And this was the approach of IcingaDB. So IcingaDB was released in June this year and is production ready. I'm not saying that it's bug-free, but it works. We had no major issues so far with version. Yeah, no major issues required, exactly. So therefore was no reason to have a 1.1, which was like a critical thing. So then again, I would like to repeat my question, why you're not using IcingaDB?
Because you never use NETWAYS software with version 1.0.
Okay. Fair enough. I write you a be happy post-it. But it's in, yeah, well, That's usually I would like to repeat it for the camera, but I don't do it now. Perhaps we can cut it out like, you are a developer, Alex, why are you? Okay.
Because I don't even have 5 hosts, not to mention 500.
Yeah, okay. I just would be curious if you as a developer would say I would not use version 1.0, that would be like, well, anyone else? I would really like to know it. So do you have no requirement for it? Did you run into problems? Or just say I do it with version 1.1 because version 1.0 never worked?
Missing other modules like reporting and stuff.
Yeah. So anyone else?
No time for evaluation.
No time. Anyone ran into problems trying to migrate to Icinga DB? I saw all these NETWAYS dudes in the back. I don't ask you.
That's another reason. Currently, I have a customer that's using NETWAYS, actually.
Okay.
NETWAYS is still not ready for Icinga DB, so it just doesn't work.
Yeah, but I think will be or is now? It kind of is. Hey, stop. Don't escalate here. Yes, a real argument, like making NETWAYS ready for it. I know the code is there already. It just needs to be published, but it is a thing because we have it with customers too, having the same issue. Yeah, absolutely. I also get the argument that people are waiting because it's an important part of the monitoring landscape, and also some modules were not in place. But over time, we invested a lot of time. I just would like to encourage you, please try it. It just not gives you a performance enhancement, but probably you don't need it, but it changes a lot in the UI. So Icinga DB is not only a new database backend, it's only a new monitoring module. So at the end, Icinga DB Web is replacing the monitoring module you currently have in Icinga Web. So independence of, I don't know, I don't have a performance issue, IDO works fine for me, okay, but there's a lot of improvement also in the visualization in the web interface. So just for this reason, I would love you to try, give it a try, use Icinga DB and figure out if it works in your environment. And the environments we've seen so far, which migrated or having like a testing environment for Icinga DB, it works good. They benefit from the improvements in the web interface. So please use it that I don't have to ask the same depressing, don't get the same depressing answers next year again. So it would be really cool that you use it.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Is there a comparison on your website that shows what features are already implemented from IDO?
So the question was if we have a comparison website. I don't think so. We don't have a comparison website. Yeah, I have a lot of these updates coming up. It means jumping a little bit front. By the end of the year, all the modules got an update. They will all be ready. Also, reporting is ready, and Cube and all that modules. So it's definitely the target. But then, and also packages coming in it. But again, I come to this at a later point. But yeah, you should and can expect that all the modules we have work with Icinga DB, of course. Yeah. The migration process covered in the workshop. That's a fantastic question. The question is how we can migrate the data from IDO to Icinga DB, and that's my next slide. Thank you. I was asking for so long that somebody asked that question. How can I migrate my data? Because we didn't have that in place. That's the thing, because if you have historical data in your IDO and making reports out of it and would like to create availability reports, of course you need your data at some point from the IDO because you don't want to lose your history. And Icinga DB version 1.1 was released this week, and there we have the migration path from IDO and getting all your data, which is not only state history, is all that historical notifications, everything which is required to be seen in the interface at the same time. And I show you how that works, because that is, first of all, pretty easy, hopefully. And it's important, because I get it, it's an important part for Icinga DB that you get all data in. If you get a downtime in production to do this, yeah, sure, no problem, do it tomorrow. I have no idea. No, it means of course Probably you don't need it because you can do it on the fly, which I show you now. Really. So we have something which you cannot see because my slides are still active. We have a monitoring system here, which is our production system, where we have the monitoring, like the old monitoring module and IDO in place, and we have Icinga DB in place. But Icinga DB also shows you like the service detail information because it's already active, and you see all the data and it's workable, so you can do your actions, everything, but we don't have a history. All the history elements which are in the IDO at the same system are not there. And what we did is having a migration script where you can not just only import everything, you can also import specific slices out of your historic data and import it into Icinga DB. And we hopefully, yeah, give it a try. Of course, I work as root. Like I did every year. Just to give you an idea, we have an example. Of course, we have YAML. An example file, how that looks like. You need for Icinga you need the environment ID, which is generated in Icinga and could be found in icingdb.env. You need to configure your data for your IDO, where your IDO data is. You need, so pretty much source and target, and in between, you need to define a time range. So from what time to what time you would like to migrate the data. It's a Unix timestamp. You can create it using the date command or using Google, or it's pretty straightforward. I heard as an argument today that because time zones and everything could be tricky, that's the reason why it's a Unix timestamp. So this is what you need to configure and bring your historic data from, in this case, from a specific time to everything we have and import it to the Icinga DB. So we're leaving this. Icinga DB. I messed it up. Hold on. Icinga DB. Okay, this is the command. Icinga DB migrate is a Go command coming with Icinga DB version 1.1. You provide the path where your YAML file is, and you provide the path to a cache file where the data is stored in between the migration process, and then we try to start it. And then you can see that Icinga DB is getting all the different types of the IDO out, so comments, notifications, flapping history, and all that stuff, and writing this to the database. What it done before, it gets all the data out and filling the cache. Yesterday, we were in preparation for the demo, and it took forever. And we had no clue why it takes so long. And then we figured out we have 9.7 million state history entries in our production system, and we had no clue why. And then we learned that last year for the demo, we installed some demo checks, which were still flapping all the time. And we're generating 9.7 million service checks, and it took us 12 minutes to migrate them. And we were just like, we cannot do like a 12-minute migration session here in the talk, and then figured out it was 95% of the data was trash. And we just deleted it, and now you can see it works pretty straightforward. Now we have 1.7 million events in there, somewhere it is there, and migrating your data in. And everything was online, so IDO was still in production, Icinga DB was in production, and if it worked the right way, you have the history in Icinga DB now. So all your historic data is in Icinga DB, which means you can install Icinga, you can install Icinga DB, bring it in place to your requirements in your configuration, keep it redundant, have both systems available, import it. Also, you can re-import it again because you can just decide which specific slice of your historic data you would like to import. And then if you feel comfortable enough and all your modules are in place and NETWAYS is supporting, then you can just switch over, replace the alt monitoring module, and if you do it, so right now the active monitoring module is the legacy one, and if I disable this and go to my settings, go to modules, go to monitoring, go to disable, then you see that Icinga DB is removed and is de facto the new standard. So everything is here, the service problems, everything is migrated over to Icinga DB. So it's super easy to get your old data to IcingaDB. Any questions about it? Or did I convince you to give it a try in production? No, I did a fantastic job. So why not? Pardon? You have too many questions. Okay, there's a long night ahead. We try to answer all your questions. We would love to convince you. If we can make it happen that tomorrow at lunchtime you are convinced, that would be perfect. That would be perfect for us. So please give it a chance, import your old historic data, and that's really easy. Okay, moving on. Okay. Icinga modules, because that was an issue, modules, support. We update all the Icinga modules this year. Some of them are already out there, like Icinga Cube, Icinga Director. Also, packages are available for these and will be available for all the modules this year. All the modules make use of the IPL and provide support for IcingaDB, for Postgres, and definitely, and I go also to detail for some modules in the future, there should be nothing limiting you from using IcingaDB, because also this is our platform from where we are moving on with our future ideas, which come at a later point. Another thing is I would like to demo is reporting. So who is using reporting? Is somebody here who does not know that reporting for Icinga exists? Okay, fair enough. Perhaps one of the 300 questions we have to go through tonight. Icinga reporting, and you can already see, because this is now everything moved to IcingaDB, is working here. So what you can do with Icinga reporting, and now in this version there's more to come, which I hit later on, is you can define your own time frames, of course. So what timing is important for you. You can create your own templates for your company. Pretty easy, and just create these reports. And have here availability, of here it's just some host availability, download the PDF, and take some time, perhaps you see it, you have your Icinga report. You can also automatically schedule a job, send it out via email to your boss, and that's straightforward having this. There's more to come. So for whom of you is it interesting to have a company-branded reporting? Company, Clemens, I know your company. I know your company. Can I say it? It's like the telecom. It's telecom, right? Because you're looking so curious, like, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. So it's super easy to create your custom-branded reporting with Icinga. Are you interested in seeing it, how it works? Okay. I do it anyway because I have nothing else to demo. No, but we could skip it. So, okay, just of all, Telekom hilft. Oh no, I had problems with my thing at home. Google, so we search a picture. It's like Telekom. We need a background, of course. No. We take this. We take the background. We take the Telekom logo. We take this. So we go here. We open up this in Affinity photo. That takes a while. So then we say, okay, we need a new one. There's a specific format we need for the landing page. This is like the cover page for Icinga reports. We take that background here, move it over, figuring out it's too small. Just doing this. Looks fantastic. Exporting it. JPEG. Yep. Telekom background. Save. Then we figure out how big the logo is. Document. What is it? Document size. Resize. So. Say it's like 200, I don't know. Anyway. Zack. Oh, that does not look good. Okay, for the demo. Save it, that's done. Then we go to reporting and say, okay, we would like to create a new template. We do this, create a new template, name telecom, give it a background image, which is now on the desktop because I saved it there. Give it a logo, which is of course under downloads. Would we like to port is a fantastic report. Color of the logo should be, because it's a dark background, should be white. In the first column we would say it's a report, like we have header columns and footer columns where you can customize your entry. It's like telecom, and let's say in the footer, in the middle we would like to have a variable and say this is like page number of page number. Page number. This. Create this template. Then we create a new report. Telecom. Choose a time frame. Last month. Choose a template. Telecom reports. Service SLA. We can create a filter. We can create a breakdown and say we can do it by, slice it by day, by month, by week, for instance. We can also define a threshold where we say when we go under these thresholds, then we mark it red, otherwise we mark it green, that the people really don't read the report, which is the majority, just see the green color and don't read the 99.57%. But if it goes under 99.5, we mark it red, and that's it. And then we schedule the report. Please do it. Okay, no? Yeah. Really? Oh, money. Okay, let's do it again. Just one more minute and then we go over it. Get the logo again. Go on the downloads. Teaser. The template. Go on the report, telecom, and go PDF. And then you get your wonderful report with your logo and a fantastic report, your telecom in the header, and your page counter in the footer. And it's so easy to extend it to your needs. Yeah, so I can also directly send it to you if you want to. I don't know if the information is helpful, but it could be curious how long it takes somebody figure it really out that this is other host systems available. So that's really cool. So if you need that reporting feature, customize this to your needs, create your own templates. You can create various templates, schedule the sending out of it. So that's pretty handy. Jumping back. Oh, I'm running out of time, surprisingly. What's next? So what are we doing next? So the next thing we are already working on is the thing notifications. Why? Notification has a lot of challenges. So it's really having good notifications. I'm not talking about send me an email for every critical. That is not a good notification. But sending a notification to the right people, to the right team, the right channel, right time, to people who are on duty, taking notice of on-call rotation and everything, and also making sure that you don't run into this alert fatigue where people just create like an Outlook rule and moving all the Icinga alerts somewhere is a thing. And configuring a correct notification mechanism in Icinga is not easy, and honestly also in any system where you would like to configure notifications the right way is really hard. So doing Hey Shoot for the Beatles is way easier than doing a correct notification for a monitoring system to hit the right people. And this is true, you can sing it through, but I just think because we're a little bit behind time, I move on. So what we gonna do? We will move the notifications to the web. So notifications now are part of the Icinga core. We're not gonna remove them for day one, but the main goal will be transforming all the notifications to Icinga web. Also, just have the configuration rules in place to which team or person notification should go. Also adding escalations and also managing on duties in Icinga. So figuring out who is on duty, who is responsible. Also perhaps, and this is not yet finished, getting external data in. So querying another team calendar and say, this is how is the person I should notify for a specific topic. For now, we plan to have just Icinga in the beginning, so Icinga 2 at the beginning as notification source. Icinga modules, because we have different modules where we need Icinga CLI to monitor it, like the business process or vSphere, we need CLI commands to get the data out and create a notification. But also we would like to give the possibility for other systems to use the Icinga notification mechanism to inform the right people with a lot of different channels. So you can imagine pretty much everything. By default, it's mostly email, but it could be text messages, it could be voice alerts, it could be Tinder, it could be Rocket Chat. So whatever your perfect tool is, could be used as an additional channel. And as a summary, it should be kind of an on-premise replacement for tools like PagerDuty, Victor, all this stuff. Perhaps not yet known, we have some capable providers which you can use as, I don't want to have my own text message hardware in my data center, I would just like use an API. And there, of course, there are tons of, I don't know, text message providers out there. But we would like to transform that notification part in Icinga to the central hub for your notifications in your environment. And another thing is that it's pretty much GDPR compliant, which is most of the current systems out there are not. I don't know if that's important. For whom of you GDPR is important? And the others is like, because you give your phone number or your name to a provider outside. Of course nobody cares. I mean, we use stuff all the time where we don't care. But technically, following GDPR, you are not allowed to use a provider in the States and give you personal data, like your name and your phone number, and store it there, because of Privacy Shield is not existing anymore. You cannot do it. And even like the world-famous English word Auftragsdatenverarbeitung does not guarantee you that you can go to their data center and inspect it, which probably the whole mechanism says that you go to your provider and say, show me my phone number and my name. So technically, being on call, doing your notifications and doing it with a provider, and it's absolutely not about bashing because they do an excellent job. But following GDPR, you're not allowed to give them your phone number and the name of your people in the company. You cannot. You can, of course, do and say, it's not important for us. But this is where we are heading to. And this is our plan where we'd like to go with Icinga notifications. Would you like to see some mock-ups? Yes. So there are some mock-ups. They have nothing to do with Icinga notification, but there are some mock-ups. But now I have real mock-ups. So this is Julian and Johannes. Johannes is our web lead, and Julian is our co-lead, working on it. And as you can see, it was already summer because he's wearing shorts. So we're working on this for some time and plan to come out with Icinga notification in the next year. There's no date. Also, not every features will be available from the start, but just give you a direction where we are heading now, and which is the next big thing coming up. There are also other things in the pipeline where we still not yet decided if we do it in parallel or following the notification. Also, there's a lot of stuff around it, like event correlation, deduplication, and all that stuff. So it's complicated. There's a name, for some it still sounds familiar, like NOMA. I don't know if this is the final name, the notification management, but it's really a complicated thing, and you still see that it's still complicated, and then it's more complicated because there are more people in the room, seems to be more complicated. But we're already working on a process of how can it look like and how will it be. It's coming next year, and I hope so much that I can show you a fantastic demo next year. What's coming up this year is a web graphite integration, a new version, and also something for generic TTS. This I'm following up all the questions regarding updated modules. And again, I mentioned it before, for all upcoming modules, for every module is compatible to the whole stack and will provide packages on the package server. So there's no need to pull it or clone it from GitHub. You can just use your package repository and install the packages for the Icinga web modules. There's a new certificate monitoring coming up. Who's using this Icinga certificate monitoring? Not so many. Who has never heard of it? Okay. So this is really a cool module where you can scan your network environment and collect all the different SSL certificates and figuring out if they are still valid. I think I have a demo. but just a short one, just to give you an idea what it is. So certificate monitoring gives you an overview about something you don't see. Gives you an overview about your certificate infrastructure. It gives you an overview of all the different domains, how long they are available. You can see the complete chain. You can see all the certificate details, and you can also be notified if some certificate in your infrastructure needs to be renewed. So if you don't use it, or pretty much you never heard of it before, make sure that you give it a try. Again, I mentioned it before, there will be a new version, which is one thing. We have an auto clean set after a configurable amount of time. We clean out old certificates not existing anymore. Also configure more detailed targets in your environment, because if you have a crazy large networking environment, perhaps you would like to have more detailed scan than instead performing a full scan, and you can configure that and make it more easy. We have a reporting coming up, a new version, which is not the version I showed you. So the version I showed you, this is what currently exists. One thing is that you can download and list reports using the CLI. You can add multiple reportlets, which a reportlet is a part where you say, I would like to have a host SLA reporting or a service SLA reporting. So in the future, you can bind different multiple reporting parts in one single report. We have Icinga DB webhooks to import the email. So imagine already have your different contacts in place. You can just import the email information to the reporting module to send out the reports to the people in there, and makes it way easier to configure the details. Icinga business process modeling is coming up, version 2.5.0. That's cool because of who's using this. It just gives me an idea if I talk to a real user, or perhaps I can convince some. Business process could be hard to tackle down if there are multiple root processes are critical. So if you have a large process list on top, and it makes it way easier to find a critical root element in your business process, and also you can sort them like of severity and display name, which is currently not possible. So this is also something coming this year. Also, the XOR operator, currently if you have like an AND combination in business process, say, I don't know, the database and the web service needs to be online to be an okay state for the parent process. It could be scenarios that for a database cluster you would not make just have an OR and say one database cluster is okay. What you want is like one but not the other is okay. And this XOR is important for a lot of business process users, and is also part of version 2.5.0. We have an Icinga Camp Berlin next year in May. I think we don't have an exact date, otherwise I would have it and would write it down here. But it will be in May in Berlin. So it will be in Berlin, and it will be in May, and that's it. So thank you very much, and if we have time for questions, I'm happy to answer it. Thank you.
Yourself, don't forget funky. Yourself, don't